Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the Deep Roots Movement. Today, we're going to work on our Islamic eschatology series by focusing on Khorasan. Now, Khorasan appears in a number of hadith related to the Imam Mahdi, as well as the Dajjal, the deceiver. So the rightly guided one and the liar, which are interesting for a number of respects, but I will discuss those a little bit in more depth soon, inshallah. To begin with, let's talk about the black flags. Now, a lot of people got very, very excited not long ago when the Americans pulled out of Afghanistan. Why? Because a significant portion of Khorasan is located in Afghanistan. Greater Khorasan expanded beyond that, included areas of Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, the former Eastern Persian lands of what are now currently in Iran, portion of Pakistan. It's debatable to some extent, but what's interesting is that people assumed that, okay, after 40 years of intensive war, first with the Soviet Union and then with America and their NATO allies and various allied groups, that the Taliban had succeeded and the Americans had tucked tail and ran. This is very naive, Muslims. Very naive. For a number of reasons. We need to consider the amount of hardware that was left behind. And this is very interesting. And everything that's happened over this past couple of years, which from what I have seen, it is the day that is like a year, and we're still in it. So we think about these issues, and we must be very realistic in our assessment. We must pull together as much data as possible and sift it in a rigorous and an excellent methodological manner. So when we consider Khorasan and we consider the black flags, I want us to think about a few things very seriously. Now, think personally about your own traumas. Many of us have been through intensive traumas. Myself, I'm in my 40s. And going back to my very early years, I've been through many very intense, violent divorces. All right? I've witnessed them, I've experienced them. I've been through psychological traumas, physiological traumas, all these various traumas. And thankfully, Allah recently brought me out of a long, dark night of the soul. And I'm very, very thankful for this. And it took years and years of seeking different healing methodologies. Healing is related to the word wholeness. To become whole, to be made whole. So I had to take holistic cleansing and detoxing processes from all over the world in order to come out of the various traumas that I'd undergone. And these weren't just traumas from family, like nuclear family dysfunctions and disintegrations, whole family divorcing itself in violent ways on multiple occasions. I mean, we're talking so many different intense experiences. And then also realizing all the different traumas that we've gone through since we were born, since the womb world and beyond, with substances that are put into us, various jabbings and stickings and pokings and proddings and cuttings. Now, this is just what I've experienced that's helped me to think about these things in some interesting, unique ways. Now, I want you to apply the same reasoning to yourself and think about all the different traumas that you've gone through. Medical traumas, family traumas, social traumas, all right? We've been through so many traumas as a people. Now, the Afghani people, we're talking 40 years straight of profound trauma. We are talking trauma of the land, trauma of the water, trauma of all of the resources, the infrastructures, Think about family traumas where loss is just devastating. Everybody has lost many people in various ways. People have been mutilated, they have been maimed. So we're talking physiological traumas. People have lost their children, their brothers, their fathers, their aunts. People, families have turned on one another and sided with other opposing sides. There's been civil war. There has been in-group spying and in-group devastation. Anyway, the whole point is, this is what I consider to be an energetic hotspot in the world. Khorasan. It's very, very important. Very, very important to human history. Even if those hadith did not exist that are controversial, this is an area where the Enlightenment traditions have arisen. We're talking very, very important to the shamanic history of humanity, very important to the Buddhist history of humanity, very important to the Islamic history of humanity. I won't go into it right now too much, but in the future I'll break down a bit about the Sufi history that has come from there. There have been so many powerhouse scholars and Sufis from there. Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, his father, his son, these were all Khorasanis. Haji Bektashi, he was from there. So many of the Turuk have their origins there. Many of our powerhouse scholars were from the Khorasan area. And if they were not from the Khorasan area, they had Khorasani inputs, scholarly academic inputs. They had spiritual inputs. This is such a powerful area. So the devils want to make sure that that area is very much taken out of the equation. It is a threat. So it's very important that they have to destabilize the place. They have intensively worked. That 40 years of destabilization through intensive warfare, that was not just for resources. It was not just for oil, natural gases, mineral wealth. It was much more than that. And now we've gone from a point where the Russians were there, then the Americans and their allies, now the Chinese are moving in, CCP. So I want us to consider that this is much more than you have been led to believe, all right? Also, black flags are also always associated with warfare. Now, when it comes to this warfare, we have the greater struggle is the most important thing to focus on right now. The most important thing. Right now, we have to deal with our individual nafs that incites the evil. The nafs that incites to selfish expression, all right? This is number one, top priority. Also, there is a collective nafs. Collective nafs is something important to consider that most Muslims it's not even on their radar. We have collective nafs. Those are false. Those are idols. The collective nafs, and it's related to isms and schisms. It's related to a false idealization of who we are as a group. And we have all these different groups, all the 73 sects. And we need to bring down our idols and not be trapped in this respect. Now, what I want to just leave you with is that the Khorasanis, the people of Afghanistan, are tremendously broken as a group. I mean, like, profoundly broken. So if you're expecting deeply traumatized people, many of whom are mentally destabilized, mentally ill from being broken again and again and again, I mean, you don't just go through intensive bombing, landmines, nonstop machine gun fire, people being taken from the home in the middle of the night, violated in various ways, children, men, elders, women, again and again and again, without there being some long-term ramifications. And if you're expecting Superman to arise out of there and come and save the day, then you are sorely mistaken. This is delusional. What I'm saying is we need to focus on how do we heal? How do we help the Afghani people heal in a real practical manner? We have to address this as an ummah. When was the last time you heard a call for spiritual revival in Afghanistan from the Afghanis or from outsiders for the Afghanis? Have you heard any calls to Tawbah and Tazkiyah? Seriously, have you heard anybody talk about Tawbah and Tazkiyah in a physiological bodily manner? Oh, you think that these areas were intensively carpet bombed, and that those ordnance and all of the landmines and everything, that didn't impact the land and the bodies. This right here, our bodies are the earth. They are sacred clay. They are clay and water. So what I'm saying is the land and the water are intensively polluted with cancer-causing, neurodegenerative substances. As well as every trauma that happens, it has an imprint in the body that might take years to arise. It might be within the next generation before you see the arising of the traumas and its impact. So, what I want us to consider, brothers and sisters, is that the Khorasanis are deeply, deeply traumatized, and there has been no call. When was the last time you heard of something spiritually powerful and beautiful coming out of Afghanistan and out of the Khorasan? Like from Irani Khorasan, perhaps? No, nothing. Nothing. Why has there been nothing? This is by design. Those peoples were intensively traumatized so that nothing could arise, nothing that would be a benefit for the Ummah or the world. Anytime we have enlightenment, Islam is intended, it is a contemplative path. Islam is a path of enlightenment. Matter of fact, it's a rapid path of enlightenment if it is practiced properly. But first we have to have a proper worldview in order to have proper practice. This purposely has been destabilized. They do not want that area to arise. They do not want to see people go into the deepest sajda and arise as upright men and women. This is something that has been purposely done to prevent this. All right, so I've gone longer than I intended, but I want us to seriously consider this because we need to do something for the Afghani people because they are deeply broken. Their lands are broken. Their infrastructures are broken. Their ecosystems are broken. Now, the lands are seeded with genetically modified foods that then blow all across the region. All right? And this is something that is super important to consider. So when it comes to the Khorasanis, what we need to look for are the spiritual Khorasanis. And the black flags are related to the greater struggle. The struggle to overcome, to dissolve the holds, the handholds of the nefs that incites the selfish expression. We need to go down into the deepest sajda in order to be made upright, to be rectified, to be made righteous. This is a spiritual conflict. It is way more spiritual than you've been led to believe. Islam is a holistic system for cleansing, for purification. This is something that is very, very neglected. Like I was saying the other day, every single arif is an alim, but very few alims are arifs. And this is seen within the Ummah. We are not allowed to change our genetics. These are the genetics of Adam alayhi salam. We must keep them pure. We must purify them to the greatest extent possible. Right now, the entire Ummah must go into the deepest sajda. We have been in a long dark night of the soul as a collective, as individuals and as a collective. There is a time to come out of a long dark night of a soul, but it is a natural process. I will discuss this more soon, inshallah. But right now, we must all engage in an individual and collective greater struggle. So this is an interior struggle at this point. And the Mahama is all around you. It is not going to be just some battlefield in the Middle East. And if a bunch of hardware was left behind, I would posit that's related to the 3 World War letter. And if you don't know about that, do your research, people. We should be truth seekers. We are the people of Iqra. Read the entire world. Right now, we are kept in a state of ignorance. We have been destabilized. People were off balance. In order to stand upright, we've got to have an internal center point of balance. We got to come into an equanimous state of mind, a mental balance, mental equipoise. We need to have expansive hearts that can read the outer and the inner realms. We need to be people of intuitive reason. This is a strength that we have as an ummah. So right now, this is an individual and collective struggle that we need to be praying together intensively. Pray for our Afghani brothers and sisters. Pray for the Khorasanis. Seriously, but realize that it's really about the spiritual Khorasanis. That's what these prophecies are about from my assessment. I've been digging deeply into this, brothers and sisters. I will give you more information soon, inshallah. But in the meanwhile, spend more time in sajda. Cleanse your body, cleanse your mind. This is the time. Do not be looking for a superhero to come and save you. We have much more within us than we have been led to believe. All right? You are so loved. You are so appreciated. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.